Welcome back to another episode of our Daily Deep Dives. I am Hari.
And I am Kimi. Grab a cup of coffee or tea because today we are visiting the coastal sand dunes of New Zealand to uncover the secrets of a rather notorious little local.
We certainly are. Today we're talking about the Katipō, a species of cobweb spider that holds the distinct honor of being one of New Zealand's only venomous creatures, and arguably its most famous arachnid.
And its name is straight to the point. Katipō is Maori for night stinger. It comes from kakati, meaning to sting, and po, meaning the night. It is actually one of the very few Maori words that refers to a single, specific species of spider.
A fitting, slightly intimidating title for a member of the Latrodectus genus. For those playing along at home, that is the widow spider family. The Katipō is a close evolutionary cousin to the famous black widow and the Australian redback spider.
Closely related, but with its own unique Kiwi flair. Visually, they are quite striking, assuming you are lucky, or perhaps unlucky, enough to get close enough to see one. The adult females are about 8 to 10 millimeters long. In the South Island and the lower half of the North Island, they sport a large, silky black globular abdomen with a distinct orange or red stripe bordered in white running down the back.
But here's a fascinating quirk of nature. If you head to the upper, warmer parts of the North Island, that striking red stripe completely disappears. The spider becomes the black Katipō, and for over a century, scientists were absolutely convinced these were two completely separate species.
Right. The taxonomic history is wild. A New Zealand doctor named Lewin Powell formally described it in 1870. Later, arachnologists unknowingly described it multiple times under different names, including a totally black subspecies. It was not until a major genetic revision in 2008 that scientists realized they are the exact same spider.
Exactly. The color difference is simply a cline, meaning it's a gradual variation directly correlated with the mean annual temperature of their habitat. The warmer it gets in the north, the less red you see on their backs. Nature's very own temperature gauge.
Which is brilliant. And while the females are busy changing outfits based on the latitude, the males are just trying to stay out of the way. The males are tiny, only 4 to 5 millimeters long, and they essentially never grow out of their awkward teenage phase. They retain their whitish juvenile coloring with black stripes and a red hourglass pattern for their entire adult lives.
Speaking of adulthood, let's talk about spider romance, because Katipō courtship is a delicate dance. When a male finds a female's web, possibly guided by pheromones in her silk, he does not just waltz right in. He approaches the perimeter and gently vibrates the silk,
which usually prompts the female to aggressively chase him away. But he persists. The courtship involves the male bobbing, plucking, and tweaking the web until she finally becomes docile. They mate for about 10 to 30 minutes, and here is the best part. Unlike some of his widow relatives, the Katipō actually survives the encounter.
a rare victory for male cobweb spiders. After mating, he just retreats to the edge of the web and grooms himself, wiping his little legs through his fangs. He is totally spared from being a post-date snack.
He definitely earned that spa time. Now, what happens if a Katipō meets an Australian redback? Because they're so closely related genetically, they can actually interbreed. But there is a tragic catch, depending on who is courting whom.
Right. A male redback can safely court a female Katipō. However, if a male Katipō tries to court a female redback, he almost always gets eaten before mating can occur. He is physically heavier than the Australian males, so his heavy footsteps on her web trigger a predatory feeding response instead of a romantic one.
Talk about putting your foot in your mouth. Literally. But if they stick to their own kind, the female lays 5 or 6 egg sacs in early summer, each holding up to 90 eggs. When the babies hatch, they do something straight out of Charlotte's Web. About 28% of them use a technique called ballooning. They cast a single strand of silk into the wind and fly away on the air currents to find new homes.
They need good homes, too, because they have a very specific real estate preference. You will only find Katipō in coastal sand dunes, usually on the landward side, hiding in native grasses like pingao. They weave incredible three-layered webs right over the open sand.
The architecture is amazing. It looks like a disorganized tangle, but there's a mesh upper layer, a dense latticed middle sheet, and vertical threads dropping to the ground covered in sticky, viscous droplets.
Their hunting strategy is wild. When a heavy, wandering beetle or an amphipod wanders into the trap, the ground anchor lines snap. The sheer elasticity of the silk yanks the bug off the ground, suspending it in mid-air, like a natural bungee cord of doom.
Then the Katipō rushes over, turns around, and uses comb-like bristles on its hind legs to aggressively scoop sticky silk out of its spinnerets, throwing it over the prey until it is completely immobilized. It bites the insect at the joints before administering a final lethal bite.
It is highly effective, but unfortunately, the Katipō itself is currently listed as being in serious decline. Their fragile dune habitats are being destroyed by coastal agriculture, urban development, and recreational off-road beach vehicles.
And on top of human interference, they are losing ground to an invasive plant called marram grass. It was planted heavily in New Zealand to stabilize dunes, but it grows too tightly together, leaving no open patches of sand for the Katipō to build their catching webs.
Combine that with the invasive South African false Katipō spider stealing their territory and breeding much faster, and our native night stinger is really struggling, which is why in 2010 they were given full protection under the Wildlife Act.
But let's address the elephant in the room. The venom. They have venom that is medically significant to humans, capable of causing a toxic syndrome called latrodectism, mostly driven by a neurotoxin called alpha-latrotoxin.
True. A bite can cause extreme local pain, sweating, goosebumps, and even hypertension or seizures. Maori legends speak of a group camped by the Wanganui River who suffered fatalities overnight from bites, which they traditionally treated by bathing the victim in hot water, applying red ochre, or covering them in smoke.
But modern medical records show 0 deaths in clinical settings. Bites are incredibly rare because these spiders are remarkably shy and non-aggressive. Only the female is capable of biting humans, and she will only do so defensively, usually if you are directly threatening her or her egg sac.
And if the worst happens, redback antivenom works perfectly to neutralize the Katipō toxin, and it is stocked in some New Zealand hospitals. The last widely reported bites were over a decade ago, a Canadian tourist in 2010 and a kayaker in 2012. Both survived without issue.
So, respect their space, protect their beautiful sand dunes, and you have absolutely nothing to fear. That is all the time we have for the fascinating yet misunderstood Katipō today. Thanks for tuning in.
Stay curious, everyone, and we will see you next time with another deep dive. Have a wonderful week ahead.
This episode is based on the Wikipedia article Katipō, which is available under the Creative Commons Attribution Share-alike license. This podcast was crafted using artificial intelligence.